finding out that your child has got cancer is it's like being hit by a bus. We were so excited for Eli to be born, thinking that life's just going to be perfect. And then at 5 weeks of age to find out not only is your son sick, but now he's got cancer as well. It just ripped us apart.
The moment when our GP called me and told me we had to drop what we were doing and take Sophie straight to the children's hospital. And it wasn't until the doctor who came to talk to us arrived that I instantly realised what was going on, because all I had to do was read her name badge because it said paediatric oncology. That's when I realised what was going on for my little girl.
I couldn't sleep at night because I was highly stressed and worried about my son, but not only that, worried about my wife and my kids. And I think I just needed a cry, but I couldn't because I had to hold myself together. I had to be the strong person to look after everybody else.
Without proper support, honestly, these families, their lives are just turned upside down, and they find it hard to keep the relationships going and to stay strong. At Redkite, we help families no matter where they're located in Australia. We're a truly national and unified organisation, but also helping kids no matter what cancer they have. We are the only national organisation that focuses on that psychosocial support for families. Redkite's emotional and mental health support means counselling sessions for all family members, mums, dads, brothers, sisters, even grandparents in the broader community when they need it. It's also practical support, information and resources to help families navigate the really challenging system and the challenging time they're going through. It's financial support when parents can't work and life still goes on. And it's giving information to the broader community, empowering those communities around families so they can provide help too.
Redkite understood that it was a complete upheaval to our lives. They understood that every day could be a struggle in a different way, that every day we were terrified of losing our daughter.
They were able to take away some of the stress of things that didn't matter, so I could be there for the things that did matter, such as my children.
As if childhood cancer wasn't tough enough, the increased cost of living at the moment, it is pushing families right to the edge. And they've never needed Redkite support more, and we have never needed community support and donations more.
Redkite provided essential support and services, and it really meant that we were never alone.
Without Redkite, I couldn't have been the strong person that I needed to be for my kids and for my wife.
People can't believe it when I tell them that there are still families facing childhood cancer alone. There are still families who we are not able to support. Not good enough. The philanthropic and corporate communities need to step up alongside Redkite so we can be there for every family.
Without Redkite, I don't even want to imagine what our journey through childhood cancer would have been like.
Monique, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Jeremy.
At the Impact Leaders Series webinar. Pleasure to have you. Thank you for making the time.
Having me.
It's been a interesting journey for me, and I know the team, to learn the depth of the work that you do. The cancer space, if you like, has been one in which there's been a number of charities and organisations over the years, obviously addressing the complexity of cancer research, of supporting people going through that journey. Although it was so empowering for me to learn the depth of the work you do at Redkite nationally. Can you explain in your words, what does Redkite do? Because I think most people wouldn't. I mean, that video is so instructive and gives people at least an insight into the extent to which this touches families' lives every day of the year around Australia. Could you perhaps expand on the complex work that you do and that kind of initial way in which you engage with families in their journey and support them until the end?
Sure, Jeremy, thanks so much. And thanks again for having me and Redkite here today. So every day in Australia, there are 3 families whose lives are shattered when they're told that their child has cancer, and they start a really long and uncertain and scary journey ahead. So Redkite, we're the national cancer support charity that is there from day one for all those families, with emotional and mental health support, with financial assistance and other practical support. And we help families to take on that challenge of childhood cancer, no matter where they live in Australia, no matter what their socioeconomic background, and no matter what cancer their child has. And when it comes to cancer, we're not talking being sick for days or weeks or even months, we're talking years. And often the impacts of cancer can last a lifetime. And I think something that's important to note, and you sort of alluded to this, Jeremy, and we've had conversations about it, is that when a child's diagnosed with cancer, the immediate and ongoing core focus of everyone is on medical survival. And we live in a country with some of the best treatments and outcomes for kids' cancer in the world. But it's come at a cost, because what people don't think about or talk about enough are those non-medical impacts of childhood cancer and the extreme pressure that it puts on every single family member. It impacts relationships and destroys marriages. Siblings are separated for heartbreakingly long periods of time. It impacts career and finances when parents can't work. It impacts education when kids can't go to school. So all these things, it's what we call the other side of cancer. It's the other side that often goes unnoticed and, quite frankly, unsupported. And that's why Redkite exists.
It's extraordinary. There's something in the sort of our human psychology where life kind of bumbles along, and then an existential crisis comes up and our priorities are immediately rearranged. It's like life is turned upside down. And as you say, the emotional impact, the financial impact, the impact on people's relationships. Could you perhaps share with us a story that may have touched you the most, or at least inspired you to want to become the CEO of Redkite, and it continues to inspire you to this day?
So I think there's probably not a particular story. I've heard literally hundreds of stories firsthand from families in the 17 years I've been at Redkite. So I've worked through different roles at Redkite, from business development when we were a tiny organisation with a big ambition, headed up marketing and brand, become an executive and headed up fundraising and marketing, and then worked hard, remained focused and driven, and then became the CEO. I think it's the stories, the themes are quite often the same, and it's the mum talking to you about the fact that she's staying strong for her sick kid, staying strong for her husband, strong for her parents, the grandparents, strong for everyone around her. And it's only Redkite. That is the only safe place, a Redkite social worker, where she can actually be angry, can be sad, can be scared. And after that phone call with our social worker or that video counselling session, she's then strong again for her kid, and strong again for her husband, and strong again for the friends around her. So I think it's stories like that, and not one particular story, that really has kept me here at Redkite. And I think also the fact that there still is so much need, and there's more that Redkite needs to do. So our ambition remains significant. And we're working toward ensuring that no family faces these non-medical impacts of childhood cancer alone.
What would you say are some of the unique challenges and joys of your work?
So joys, it is the fact that we're making a real difference, and I'm making a real difference to real families going through the darkest time that they've ever been through. Also, being at Redkite, it is more than the incredible impact we have on families. It's actually the people that rally around and make Redkite possible. So that's the Redkite team, who are passionate and talented. It's our partners and donors, where we innovate together and create incredible programs and support the families. And we have a great board at Redkite who are engaged and very generous with their time and with their expertise. So they're the joys. In terms of challenges, Redkite, we don't receive any direct government funding at all. So we rely 100% on community and corporate support to do our work. And it's a really tough funding environment right now. And that's not unique. Any charity operating at the moment is feeling that. But I guess what I'd say is unique to Redkite is that when times are tough in the economy and donations are down, Redkite families are doing it tough too. So we've never had more demand for our financial support. So that's paying bills, fuel in the car, food vouchers, when families are struggling with the increased cost of living, on top of their child's cancer, of course. And also we've never seen such demand for our counselling and mental health support. So in the first 6 months of this year, we've counselled more mums and dads and brothers and sisters than we ever have before. So I guess that unique challenge is donations being tough to come by and funding tough to come by, alongside increase in demand. And that's something we need to manage every day. And the nature of the work we do, we can't just walk away. We can't just say, no, we can't do that anymore. We've just got to work harder and be more innovative around how we can get that funding.
And it's such a key point. The ways in which organisations like Redkite are funded, the public generally don't perhaps understand the complex environment you're navigating, whether it be government funding or not, and or what does it mean for the organisation. How have you seen? I mean, it's a time when, as you say, the cost of living is challenging most Australians. Mm. How does that? I mean, that has a real impact on the people's lives you're able to support. What do you do in times like these to address that, to ensure that you can support the Australian families in need at this time? Is there one approach or sort of a series of approaches to make sure you can provide those services?
So, look, I think it is a series of approaches. We have to keep telling the Redkite story. And even a day like today, Jeremy, you invited me here to talk about the work of Redkite. We've got to tell the stories, and we have to unashamedly do that, because it is the other side of cancer and the side that people don't think about. We've got to I guess, increase awareness of those unique challenges these families are going through and the complexities that they're navigating. Our service delivery team has to be more innovative around the work that we can do so we can continue to support families. But I think going harder for funding and looking at that diversity of funding through corporate, community, philanthropy events, so that diversity is really important in tough times.
And we'll circle back to the funding piece, because that's what this partnership is about for us, is to help accelerate that the funding that we can deliver for your work. Couldn't you talk us through, in respect to bringing to life the process for a family? So I think it'd be really interesting if we could hear from you. So family receives this devastating news, then what happens?
So
what can they do?
So no one expects a cancer diagnosis, and often a child's sick, they've got unusual bruising, a sore leg. It's something where parents have x-rays or tests done. They never expect a cancer diagnosis. So often they're sent directly to hospital and they only have the clothes on their back. And so they're then dealt the worst news that any parent could be told. They receive at diagnosis what's called the Redkite red bag. It's a diagnosis pack full of all the things you need for an unexpected hospital stay. So it's information, it's toiletries, so toothbrush, all that kind of thing for parents to help them through. And parents talk about the fact that it's not just the practical items in that bag that makes them think, wow, there's an organisation here who knows what I'm going through today. But it's also that symbol of hope that there's going to be an organisation and people there for them through this challenging time. So that's the first, I guess, introduction to Redkite. There's overnight, they're impacted financially because you never see a child in hospital without a parent at their bedside. So of course they can't work. So overnight, even feeding your family is a challenge. Fuel in the car for maybe the rest of the family to come to hospital can be really hard, particularly for regional and remote families. So we provide that financial assistance for families to keep them going through this time. And also counselling and support. So we do that through the entire cancer experience, not just when families are in hospital and when kids are on treatment, but also on return home, which actually our research shows is a time that families actually find the toughest, when they leave that safe bubble of hospital where they've got their doctors, nurses, other families, lots of charities helping. It's often when they go home that there is nobody who understands and no organisations there to help them. And that's where Redkite continues to be there for them. And that continues into bereavement, for still at least 1 in 7 children still die from cancer. And Redkite provides specialist bereavement support for that family and for individual family members, mums, dads, brothers and sisters. So it really is through the entire cancer experience that Redkite helps, from that first moment of diagnosis through to wherever cancer takes them.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it? 1 in 7 still.
As a mum, that's not a good stat. That is not a stat that any family
No.
wants to hear.
No.
But even the fact that survival, the road to survival is so tough and long and rigorous that it has enormous impacts even for those kids and families who do get through it.
Thank you for sharing that. So that the practical and emotional implications of a cancer diagnosis are enormous, of course. And I mean, you're obviously very, very passionate about this, and it's very clear to understand why. Although I'm curious for you, where does your passion come from specifically for this challenge facing Australian families? Was it a moment? Was it a series of moments? Was it, as you say, working for the organisation over a number of years, seeing the impact, and therefore feeling deeply committed? Could you share some of your story with us?
Thanks for asking, Jeremy. I think anyone who knows me knows, even through school and uni, I always wanted to work somewhere where I was helping people in need or a good cause. And I've worked for the Australian Red Cross and had an early interest in aged care. So was always interested in that area. But my unwavering passion in the cancer space and for Redkite actually does come from personal experience of cancer. So I took an 18-month career break in my 20s to care for my mum when she was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So I know deeply the impact that a cancer diagnosis has on the entire family and on every aspect of life. It shatters lives, it shatters futures, and it has lifelong impacts. So I haven't had a childhood cancer experience, but being a mum now and goodness, meeting these mums and dads and hearing the stories of these beautiful children who are so sick and their brothers and sisters just going through so much, it's devastating, and they need support. And they need support with those things that I've experienced and others who've gone through cancer have experienced, but it's what most people don't think about. And we need to increase awareness of that other side of cancer and get support where these families really need it. So yes, personal experience does drive my passion, and it actually drives a lot of our donors and team members who have also been touched by cancer in their own lives and bring their own stories to the table.
And I did notice that such an honour to be at the anniversary a few months ago in Sydney and see people from the corporate sector to families that have been impacted to your fantastic team. Everyone's so committed and passionate about this issue. And as you say so eloquently, this is a time in which we all need to really work together. People come with their networks, with their ability to support in different ways. And it's only by working together that we can actually make exponential impact. So I was impressed at the extent to which you have created partnerships in this space. Could you talk us through how important these partnerships are and the breadth of partnerships and how that helps Redkite achieve its goals?
Thanks, Jeremy. I love that you were able to attend our 40-year anniversary. So that's 40 years of care and support for kids and families across Australia. But I love that you felt that energy. It really is a community at Redkite, and the partnerships are everything. It's a real team effort to do what we do for families, from the Redkite team to the Redkite board to our philanthropists, corporate partnerships. And we know that we have an ambitious 5-year strategy, but one of the foundational pillars to that strategy is about partnerships. So it's partnerships with donors. And over the years, we've built some really long-lasting, deep, mutually beneficial partnerships. I mean, we just celebrated 25 years with BOC, one of Redkite's first corporate partners, who are still going strong, and their team is so passionate, and it's woven into the culture of that organisation. 10 years for Coles, and constantly bringing on new partners who are really touched by and taken with what they learn about the cancer experience and what families really need. But also, when we talk about partnerships, it's about sector partnerships. So partnering with other organisations where we can co-deliver programs for families or share knowledge and experience to make the outcomes better for the kids and families. One example is the Child and Youth Cancer Alliance that Redkite's part of with Canteen and Camp Quality, our peers in this space. So partnerships is critical. We cannot do it alone.
So we have a partnership,
We do.
which is uses our technology and relationship with mostly retailers, although now we're bringing on board professional services, which is exciting as a whole new vertical. And we haven't been in partnership long, yet we've raised already over $30,000, $1 at a time for Redkite. And it's only been a few months, right? So that's exciting because
It's so exciting.
the sky's, potentially the limit here. Now, $30,000, I know in the cancer space in research, it can be a drop in the ocean, but when you're helping families, it can touch many people's lives. Can you talk to us about what $30,000 does? Because I think that's one of the challenges for businesses and consumers. They're thinking, well, okay, it's not an insignificant amount of money, but what does it do? Can you share with us the impact that it has on people?
Sure, and I have to say, to raise that amount of money in a short period of time is amazing, and we're so excited about that. And those little donations, they really do add up. They really do add up, and I wish we could tell more people about that collective impact, because it makes such a difference when people think maybe it doesn't. And I think what I always say at Redkite is that every number is a family. So we talk about 3 families a day. We talk of, thousands of families at any one time facing the impacts of their child's cancer. But every number is a real family experiencing the darkest time of their life. And so it's tangible support that Redkite provides. So a few examples, we did some recent research that showed that parents are skipping meals in order to be able to feed their kids and their family because of the financial impacts of cancer. So $100 could mean a grocery shop and putting food on the table, and so that parent doesn't have to skip dinner that week. Also, it's $200 can actually pay for counselling sessions for the brothers and sisters of sick kids. Those brothers and sisters often talk about feeling abandoned or forgotten. So counselling sessions actually helps them to navigate this sad and really stressful time for them. And it could be counselling sessions. I talked earlier about that mum and mums, holding it together for everyone. Dads too. They're ready to implode a lot of the time. So, $200 can provide counselling sessions, and that is real support for a real parent going through something incredibly tough that no one else can help them with. And there was a recent story, I might have mentioned it to you, Jeremy, when we caught up, but a mum who was taking her daughter to hospital for treatment on the bus. So her daughter with a compromised immune system, she had no choice because she couldn't afford to register her car. So, $1,000 could help register a family car like that one. And that is not a unique story. Also, a dad recently from regional Australia, it's a 2-hour trip to hospital, so a 4-hour round trip. He hadn't visited his wife and his son in hospital for months because they couldn't afford the fuel for that 4-hour round trip. So we're talking about small amounts that mean big things for these families, and that's the kind of impact that $30,000 has. It is not a drop in the ocean. It is significant for these individual families in their journeys.
And especially now where the figures are increasingly shocking, the amount of families that are struggling to put food on the table. That's when they're, don't have something like a cancer diagnosis to have to deal with. So this, as you so clearly share with us, it tips families over the edge very quickly, doesn't it? And suddenly it's a struggle in every aspect of life.
Yeah, and I say they're going through enough. Their child has cancer, and their whole life's been turned upside down. To be worrying about how they're going to pay the electricity bill or not putting the heating on because they can't afford it, yet their sick child going through treatment feels the cold more than ever. There's all these stories, and these families shouldn't have to worry about where their next meal's coming from. They should be focusing on their sick child and their other children and on themselves. And that's the kind of support that that supporters like I Equals Change and your retail partners are able to do for Redkite and these families.
So how can I Equal Change businesses continue to help?
Well, we would love more businesses to choose Redkite as one of your charities. I think, hearing more about that other side of cancer and the fact that too many families are going through this alone, if more businesses could choose Redkite, that would be amazing. And it's actually Childhood Cancer Awareness Month coming up in September. So it's a great time to launch a new partnership, and we'd love to be able to help with that. Also, it's a good month for the existing supporters who I need to do a big shout out to and say thank you. It's a chance to double down for change during the month of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. So just love that this program actually provides the opportunity to tell customers about the impact of donations and why the work of Redkite is so important for families.
And I really appreciate you mentioning that, because what we find is that for businesses, those key days like Childhood Cancer Month are powerful launch moments to be able to come on board, support Redkite, double their donations often as a way to launch, not have to discount. And we're finding really interesting data around consumers are not always chasing discounts. They're actually wanting to shop their values more than ever before. And it's so exciting to see and heartening to see how much we're wanting to purchase from businesses that reflect the change we're wanting to see in the world. And so that's a really powerful time to come on board and support Redkite, launching only next month. And we're here with the technology to make that simple. So if you have an online store, we're actually about to launch an in-store solution, which is very exciting, where there's enormous volumes of transactions. And professional services as well. We're about to bring on board our first law firms who will be giving back around the time in which they issue their invoices, engaging their clients, really bringing to life their ESG and their commitment to people and their commitment to telling a bigger story beyond their services, which is so important because it moves what we do as businesses from just product or service, from the head to the heart. And we like to think we're rational as human beings. We're not. We're highly emotional creatures, and we do want to support businesses, create relationships, and live a life in which we are aligned with our values and we're authentic with that sort of. I think COVID sort of exposed this. Obviously, working from home and this idea that you had to be in a building in the city and commute for 2 hours, otherwise you weren't working, and this kind of separation of our personal lives has been largely broken down. And the sort of humanization of work and the humanization of our expectation of businesses that they actually are committed to being a force for good is only a good thing and an urgent thing at a time like this, where we're all aware of how fragile our planet is at the moment, and the people being impacted by cancer and it is earness because the interconnectivity is profound. I mean, the challenge and the environment are impacting people's ability to earn and to often keep their jobs, or jobs are being outsourced. There's so many factors that actually impact people, such that if they do get a cancer diagnosis, they're much more fragile than they would have been. And of course, the obvious one is interest rates, which have put a lot of pressure on Australian families. And so and if they were to receive that diagnosis, it's a really fragile time. Monique, what keeps you going every day, and what do you look forward to when you? And I sort of ask this because there's this shift where we're all wanting to lead purposeful lives, right? And you reflect a wonderful, and I'd say even a beautiful truth, which I've come to notice, which is those working in the impact sector are some of the most passionate and inspired people I often meet, because they know what they're doing, they know why they're doing it, and in some cases their work gives them that clarity around why they were even born, to be of service. And you and your amazing team are of service every day. So when you wake up and you sort of start your day, what do you most look forward to, and what keeps you going?
I'd start every day with a sunrise walk. So it's a new day full of hope and possibilities, even when times are tough and hard. But it's also knowing that with every sunrise, there's three more families every day. There are 3 more families every day. And today there are 3 families who have no idea that that's going to be them tomorrow. So that is actually very grounding for me and all of the Redkite team to know that every day is purposeful, and every day we need to be there for families, and particularly when times are tough in the current economic climate where funding is hard, we have to step up more and find more energy to be there for families. So I think also what I look forward to, it is the camaraderie with the Redkite team. It is the connections with our partners and supporters. It's amazing what that team and collective effort does for individuals. So for me as a person and as a professional, it's so wonderful to work with like-minded people. And I have to say, I've got a lot of friends who say to me that they envy me working in the sector that I do for an incredible organisation like Redkite. What I say to them is that often people can actually make just as much of an impact by working in a big corporate or in another business or organisation, because they can actually make decisions to make a difference and to support organisations like ours. So I wouldn't underestimate the good that people can do outside of the not-for-profit sector, because I see it every day.
That's true. There's so many opportunities for people to become entrepreneurs within those larger organisations, and those organisations are looking to be more purposeful. And indeed, there's legislation coming down the line around sustainability, around ESG, that is going to almost force the hand of another, or it's going to accelerate the goals and initiatives of a number of larger organisations, and we hope that it will also have significant impact for Redkite. So, Monique, final question, if I may. In many years from now, when you look back on your life and you're sitting in that rocking chair, or you're walking on the beach, again, because you've got to keep moving, it's critical. What will you be most proud of?
Oh, that's a big question, Jeremy. Maybe it's more what I would be grateful for rather than proud of. I think looking back, I'd be just grateful to be able to work in an organisation and in a role where I've been able to make a real impact for real families during tough times, and also to have been able to do it with incredible human beings and organisations where we've seen the best in people, and provided that support. And probably also just gratitude for the people that I've met and stories I've heard from those families. And it is a privilege that I don't take for granted. And I actually share those stories with my daughters. So to be able to share these sorts of stories with my family means that I've also able to instill values of empathy and kindness and gratitude and generosity with them. So I'm grateful to have the opportunity to be able to do that as well. So lots of gratitude, I would say, rather than pride.
And I appreciate that shift, because yes, to be grateful every day is so crucial. And important for mental health and for giving us an understanding of just the privilege we have of being alive and being healthy. And every day you see how fragile that can be. Monique, you and the team are doing incredible work at Redkite, and it's been an honour to, in our own small way, but we're just starting, walk alongside you. And our goal is to bring many more businesses on board to support your incredible work, supporting Australians at one of their most challenging, if not most challenging times in their lives. So for any businesses that are on this call, there's a really key impact period coming up, Childhood Cancer Month in September. So it's a fantastic time to come on board and begin giving back. And as Monique said, there are stories available that you can build into your channels to bring to life the impact that your donations are having. And this enables you to engage in a bigger conversation with your customers and your staff around who you are as a business, what you care about, and the impact that you're having. Monique, thank you so much for joining us. I know you've got so much on every day, so we really appreciate your time. And if there's no questions from anyone in the audience, there's 2 questions have come in. What long-term goals does Redkite have for expanding its support and services? And how can we at an individual level contribute to achieving these goals? Thank you. Good question.
Thanks for the question. Our 5-year strategy actually has 3 pillars, and I won't go into detail, but it is about direct support to families, empowering communities around families, and being part of systemic change. So the goals are to do more in that direct support to families, so more for brothers and sisters, more for those mums and dads, and deepening that support and tailoring that for more families. But interestingly, this empowered communities pillar is really important, because what we keep hearing from families is that no one knows how to help, particularly on return home from hospital. The child's hair grows back, treatment's stopped. It means the lasagnas stop being cooked and people stop offering help, and they think everything's fine. And often that's when families fall apart. So how can we educate and empower friends and networks around these families so they can provide the support that they need? And that's particularly important for bereaved parents, who even talk about people crossing to the other side of the playground when they see them, because they just don't know what to say. And that's a time when that parent needs support more than ever. So empowering communities around families is important. And then the systemic change piece is about being a voice on behalf of families for the other side of cancer. So too often when there are roundtables about children's cancer, it's all got a medical focus, and we know that it's those non-medical impacts of cancer that need to be talked about and need to be addressed. So we're doing more work with government to increase awareness there. There's a public hearing next week around carers, and I'm actually speaking about the unique needs of carers, so parents who have a child with cancer, where their needs are not being met. So they're the 3 pillars: direct support, empower community, systemic change. That's what we're aspiring to do. At an individual level, funding is also always huge and can help us to do more. But we also have individuals provide their experience and expertise and advice to Redkite in different ways. On our board, they are all volunteers, and anyone who's looked at our website and seen our board, they are a formidable group of generous, extraordinary people. We've got regional councils at the local level who help to open doors and networks for Redkite. We have skilled volunteering with data experts who come in and help us do things we could never afford to do, but things we need to do for families. So I'd say there's lots of different ways that people can get involved, and I'd love to speak with anyone, have a coffee with anyone who has some thoughts about what they might be able to do to help Redkite. I hope that answers the question.
And we have one comment from a grateful viewer who has been personally impacted by Redkite. So thank you for sharing that. And a final question, Monique, can you tell us how individuals or small businesses can support Redkite during International Cancer Awareness Month with a monetary donation?
So I think increasing awareness of the other side of cancer is so important. In time, that will help us to raise money so people don't think of the obvious causes and charities linked with cancer to support. But also so that families going through childhood cancer know that Redkite's here to help them with all this incredible support. So I would say, in addition to donations through Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, please share our content. I think the Redkite team probably gearing up with some great content, some great but tough stories that we'll be sharing about families going through this. So share our content, increase awareness of the other side of cancer and the work that we do. I'd be so grateful for that, and that will make a real difference.
And if you're a small business, we have updated our platform. So previously you needed to support 3 projects. Now you can only support, if you want to, just Redkite. So you might want to come on board with I Could Change and give to Redkite only, especially during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And then you would have access to stories as well. So at the end result is that we want to accelerate the funding for Redkite as much as possible and help you to support more families around Australia. Monique, thank you again for your time. Really great to see you, and you've been so generous today, and I think shared vulnerably and personally. And the fact is that those personal stories are heartwarming and heartbreaking, and remind us of the true impacts of childhood cancer that Australian families are facing every day. And it's really amazing work that you're doing there. And I can see why you've been there for so long and doing an incredible job as a CEO. It's so great to meet you and the team, and we're very committed to supporting you over the long term. So thank you again.
Jeremy, thank you. And can I just take this opportunity to thank you and the I Equals Change team? Just the innovation is extraordinary. I talked about before diversity of revenue being so important for organisations like ours that are 100% reliant on community and corporate support. So congratulations to you, to your team who are so driven and ambitious, all for such a good reason, and helping really great causes like Redkite. Also choosing a lot of causes like Redkite that aren't top of mind for people. So well done to you on that, and thank you for that. And also just thank you to all of those on this call for listening to about the work of Redkite, but also those who are supporting us. So thanks, Jeremy and team, and to everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Monique.